Oilers coach out, Minnesota hockey team out, Ryan Johnson in. With that, welcome to the sheet for this Thursday, May 14th. Glad to have you aboard today. The lovely haircut you see beside me is Greg Wyshynski's. And in between the two ears are Greg Wyshynski himself, who is at the capital of ESPN right now.
Yeah, in Bristol, Connecticut for some meetings and stuff. No, I think I had my hair cut the last time we talked too. It's just that it looks better than it usually does, and also there's different lighting.
I like what you're doing with your hair. Keep washing it. It's good. That's great. Yeah,
I try.
Keep washing it. Yeah, that's good. We got a lot to do today, but really quick in the quick little sort of preamble here, if you want to do triage for how you want to handle this, the biggest stories in order today: Minnesota, Vancouver, or Edmonton for you, as we do our triage here for the topics du jour.
Am I right in the rundown for the show now, Marek?
Pretty much. Jeez. Blueprint brought to you by Greg Wyshynski and FanDuel.
It's Knoblauch, obviously. It's not only for the team, not only for the implication of what it means for the next 2 years for the team, not only for all of the backroom chicanery going on with Bruce Cassidy, but also because they handed a guy an extension that hasn't started yet and then fired him before the extension starts, which, I don't know, Marek, doesn't seem like very good personnel management to me. It's just where I'm sitting. I don't know.
No, you know what? I kind of like it. Like, I don't like it for Kris Knoblauch. No, but I like because the idea of, well, he's not the coach we want. He's not the coach we think we need right now, but damn it, we're paying him, so damn it, he's going to coach. When you're this close to the Stanley Cup, you can't think that way. You can't work that way. It's got to be, if he's not our guy, I know it's going to be a tough one to go and sell into the owner, but Daryl, you're going to have to chomp down hard on this contract because we need a new coach. I actually applaud that, as opposed to just, well, we're paying him, so he's going to be our coach, damn it.
But you're paying him because you thought he was your coach,
and then you were wrong.
He was the coach that got you. But how are you wrong? He got them to 2 Stanley Cup Finals in consecutive seasons, Marek.
Look, I'm not arguing whether it's right or wrong. I'm saying if they have the belief that he is not at this point, and I think a lot of this has to do with what Connor and Leon said. More on that in a moment. If you firmly don't believe that he's your guy, then don't double down on it just because you're paying him. I know he got him to the Stanley Cup final twice. I know he's coached one of the best teams in the NHL in the last few seasons. I get all of that. My only point is if you've made the decision that he's not your guy, good on Edmonton for not saying, we're actually paying him and his new contract hasn't kicked in yet and it's a pretty dime and it's going to be 3 years. Are we cool with that? It sounds like that wasn't even a discussion. It's, he's not our guy. We have a ticking time bomb of a contract here with Connor McDavid. So let's just get on with it and find another coach because we cannot squander the next 2 seasons.
I have absolutely no faith in this management group being able to identify whether or not he's the guy. The guy who just got you to 2 consecutive Stanley Cup Finals. The guy who presided over a team who, by the way, we just all gave a hall pass to because Connor was playing on one ankle and because Draisaitl was hurt and then maybe Bouchard was hurt. Like, all of these things conspired to give the Oilers a hall pass in their first round loss to the Anaheim Ducks, except for the coach. No, that the coach gets blamed. He's the one who needs to leave. Despite all of the other excuses that we gave this team for their first round loss to the Anaheim Ducks.
Listen, you know where I'm at. The first thing it's always, is it composition or is it coaching? I think in this situation, it's both. Like the moment that I saw in that last game, Knoblauch throwing out McDavid, who's injured, Draisaitl, who's injured, on the same line together. Did I mention this is on the road, where Joel Quenneville can match up as he sees fit, and every time they were out there, he had Jackson Lacombe and Trouba out there to shut them down. And who was the defensive conscience of that line? Do you recall? So everyone can hear me in the back. Kasperi Kapanen. At that moment, I said, I think it might be time.
But this is what I'm talking about.
It might be over.
This is throwing spaghetti at the wall, man. This is desperation. This is looking at Bruce Cassidy and saying, hey, this guy gets instant results and can give a semblance of a defensive system. I listened to Stan's press conference before we hopped on, Marek. I know you didn't get a chance to. And basically what he said, I'm gonna read you kind of what he was getting at today, which is that he doesn't believe the team has any foundational piece besides the power play that they can rely on when they don't get a power play or if the power play doesn't convert. I think that's a fair criticism. And so their Hail Mary pass in the remaining 2 years, maybe, of Connor McDavid's tenure in Edmonton is to get someone who can come in, install a defensive system, give them some level of personality when it comes to another facet of this team besides the man advantage, and hope that they have the time to do so they can rely on another part of this team to get them through the tough times. It is a complete Hail Mary to believe that Bruce Cassidy can do that with like you said, the roster he's being given. But I guess it's the only card they feel like they have left to play to win a cup within the next year. Because it could easily just be the next year, and then they have to trade Connor.
It could be. It could be. This is one of the things we're going to get to here in a couple of seconds, because there is, like, as we say, that doomsday clock attached to all of this. Let's get to what's on the program today. The Blueprint, and more on Edmonton, trust me. The Blueprint is powered by FanDuel. Download the app today and play your game on FanDuel. Coming up on the program, you've heard him, you've seen him, haircut and all. He's in Bristol, Connecticut, home of ESPN. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN and ESPN.com. Tyler Yaremchuk is going to stop by. When we talk about the Oilers around these parts, we go to Tyler. Kris Knoblauch fired, coaching openings. Avs eliminate the Wild, or the Wild just, I don't know, Greg, stop playing hockey. I don't know what the hell that was that I watched last night, but I just saw the Minnesota Wild stop playing hockey, and we'll talk about Sixes a little bit later on tonight. I want to swing back to Edmonton in a couple of seconds, but now I'm not sure if we have the Russo clip, Zach, if we have it standing by. So I had Mike Russo on the other day, and we were talking about the Minnesota Wild. Surprise, surprise. By the way, first time I've ever interviewed someone from his cigar bar. But there was Mike Russo at his cigar bar, which was so cool.
Mike Russo has told me about this cigar bar on multiple occasions, because I don't know if I've shared this on the show before, but Mike Russo and I are cigar buddies on the road.
Yes, I know that.
Every Stanley Cup final, we identify the places to go. I've taken him to basements in Boston. I've taken him all sorts of places, and he's promised me that I get to go to that cigar bar, because that is the cigar bar, I believe, where he may or may not bump into a certain general manager of a certain Minnesota NHL team once and again. And I'd love to take part in that confab at some point.
Do we have that clip standing by from the other day?
I don't have that one.
Oh, you don't have. Oh, geez, I'm going to present the whole cigar bar. We had it right. Okay. Anyway, we're talking about what would constitute a successful season for the Minnesota Wild. Now, you know my whole thing about the first round. I like the first round because everybody's healthy. But now, built into the conversation about Minnesota and Colorado is Joel Eriksson-Ek and Jonas Brodin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then last night happened. And what could have been looked at as, a successful season for the Minnesota Wild, taking some steps. Kaprizov, APB, out on the expensive guy in Minnesota. And then they just quit playing in periods 2 and 3. And that is going to be, regardless of what they did all season long, I think that is what is going to linger for Minnesota Wild fans. Don't you think? Like, they go up 3 Cobb and then just stop playing hot. I know it's the Avs. I get it.
Yeah.
But man, what was it? 3 shots in the second, 4 shots in the third, and a big bagel in overtime. Kaprizov, the round number.
So 2 things on that. First of all, I think I'm getting soft in my old age, because I do think it's a successful season. They won a series against a higher seed that a lot of people thought was going to take them out. They played well against Colorado for the most part in this series, knowing that they were missing 2 key defensive pieces. And so I got to tell you, the moment in which the Philadelphia Flyers fans started applauding and cheering their team as the siren was sounding on the overtime goal that ended their season in a sweep, it occurred to me that we should be more joyful about the progress our team's making in the playoffs.
I agree.
I know that doesn't sound like me. I know that there's probably people being like, "Where's the alien pod under Greg's bed to steal the cynic that we all love?"
Why are
now
you
he's
me
like,
now?
"We should be more joyful about these things."
Why
But
are
again,
you me? What's happened to you?
When you think about I was thinking about the Atlantic Division recently, because I was talking about the Lightning with somebody, and they were out in the first round in 5 straight seasons, but a couple of those were against the Florida Panthers, who went on to win a Stanley Cup. The Minnesota Wild are going to sit back and think about what happened in Game 5, they're probably losing in Game 6, and they're probably losing in Game 6 to the eventual Stanley Cup champion, who right now looks like an unstoppable juggernaut in this league. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's any shame in that. So if there are Minnesota fans that really feel terrible about the way things went last night, I don't begrudge that. And I don't begrudge the idea that in a couple of days, you can be very angry with the construction of this team, which was an absolute donut, like we've talked about before, where Ryan Hartman's got to lug the freight as your number one center.
Yep.
But for now, I think you can be really happy with the way things went, with the acknowledgement that you lost to somebody really, 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 really good.
You really did, but the problem with all of it is, I don't think that fans, this might just be the pro wrestling in me, I don't know that fans mind if you lose as long as they see an effort or they see a struggle or they see something they can hang on to and then say, you know what, we were like Monty Python's Night. We just kept going for it, but we just kept losing limbs, and there's only so much you can do. But that didn't happen yesterday. At all. Again, like after the first 20 minutes, to watch that complete cave-in by Minnesota, that's gonna burn. That burns.
I think
man.
you could be a. I think you could be a realist about. I think you could be a realist about a couple of things. First of all, you could be a realist about how this is version 1.0 of the team that will eventually challenge seriously for a Stanley Cup. I don't think that they had a roster that could do it. You can't go into battle against a Colorado team that's 5 centers deep. They've got their fourth best center playing wing, and then Jack Drury is winning every faceoff he gets as their number 4 center. It's insane how deep they are in the middle. Minnesota couldn't even match up against that if Joel Eriksson Ek was healthy. So it's contingent on Bill Guerin to fix that in the offseason. And by the way, we've been talking about this for a decade about the Minnesota Wild being lost in the middle. Now, does that mean go and spend the rest of their capital on Austin Matthews? Hey, that's a solution. Maybe we should do that. Did Bill Guerin get any quality time or recently with Austin Matthews in a secluded place when they could have talked about such things? I don't know. Maybe he did.
Can't think so. Don't know what you're talking about.
And even if we could think so, we couldn't say it because obviously that's tampering, and we know that very much that tampering is a very big deal in this league right now. But secondly,
only Mike Keenan and Pat Quinn have ever done it, and Jim Benning. That's it.
And Jim Benning. The other thing, though, dude, is that we talked about this team lacking in players that can make a play or have a moment. And we both agreed that Matt Boldy was kind of maturing into that person. And he certainly had some big moments in this series and in the playoffs for them.
Not so much in this series.
Okay, but in the Dallas series.
100%, yes.
But when you look at what happened last night, and again, the story of the Colorado Avalanche is the waves of depth they can throw at you and player, getting Brett Kulak the big goal and Ross Colton the big goal and Parker Kelly the big goal. That's the story of this team.
Yes.
But when you needed it, you had Nathan McKinnon scoring the biggest goal of the game. And that's not something Minnesota had in the series. It may not necessarily have on its roster. And I don't know how you fix that because when push comes to shove, Colorado will always have McKinnon. They will always have Makar. And
it's not just
Minnesota's going to have to find ways to find people to be the hero.
It's not just that. There are two teams that right now seem like, with all due respect, we love you Montreal, we love you Buffalo, we love you Anaheim, we love you Vegas. There looks to be two teams that are on a collision course right now, and that's Carolina,
Godzilla.
Carolina and Colorado. Okay, who knows? Sure, things can happen. I get it, but right now it looks like two teams are on a collision course. And the two things, the thing that those two teams have in common is they make really, really smart bets. They make really, really smart gambles, and they are two of maybe the two most efficient organizations in the National Hockey League. You just mentioned Parker Kelly. Look, there's no spot for him in Ottawa. Who does something about it? The Colorado Avalanche, Sam Malinsky. There's another one. Go right up and down the lineup. Really smart, safe bets. And Carolina does the exact same thing. And over the course of time, enough of these smart, safe bets accumulate, and then all of a sudden, what do you have? A team with depth. So instead of going out to pay for your depth in the offseason, these two teams make really small, safe bets. And not all of them pay off, but because you do them in the volume that you do, eventually they do pay off. And that's to your point. Colton scores a big goal. Sure, there's always Nathan McGinn. Colton scores a goal. Parker Kelly scores a goal. I mentioned Sam Linsky. Carolina does the exact same thing. Look at how good Jankowski looks for smart, safe bets on both sides that accumulate and you turn into playoff juggernauts.
But smart, safe bets, but also hyper aggressive. Like
yes.
I know I'm kind of arguing against myself right now with the conversation we had about Knoblauch, but like, you know, the Colorado Avalanche acquire Charlie Coyle to be a solution in the middle for them, and then they trade Charlie Coyle and get Miles Wood off their cap, right? After last season, and then that you know, they make the aggressive move on Rantanen. All of these moves, all of these cap savings, they result in Brock Nelson. They result in Nazem Kadri. They result in, you know, all of these little pieces here and there that they've been able to acquire within the last year that have created this juggernaut. In Carolina's case, I mean, the most famous aggressive move we've ever seen, acquiring Mikko Rantanen and then trading Mikko Rantanen after 12 or 13 games. And that nets them Logan Stankoven and Taylor Hall, who are two pieces of the best line in the playoffs right now.
And Keandre Miller. Let's throw that into
and using the draft assets they got from Dallas to get Keandre Miller and then signing him to that contract. So it's not simply just making the smart small bets. It's also being incredibly aggressive in bold moves that you believe are going to help set the dominoes in motion to create better things for your team down the line. And not, I mean, there are so many front offices that don't trade Rantanen twice, right? There are so many front offices that are like, this is our guy to score the big playoff goal, and we're going to double down on this guy, even though we know he doesn't want to live in Raleigh. So that, I mean, it's also the boldness of the managing from Eric Tulsky and Chris McFarland easily.
Agreed. I got nothing more to say about that one. And these two teams look like they're headed towards a Stanley Cup final. Quick thought on, because I want to circle back to Edmonton here, and then Tyler Yaremchuk's coming up. The sharpen the pencil even more coming up at the bottom of the hour. I said not that I'm some sage or I have a Vancouver Canucks crystal ball. I just couldn't wrap my head around the idea that it wasn't going to be Ryan Johnson at the end of all of this. And Ryan Johnson and an elevated role now for the Sedins in Vancouver. Evan Gold seemed like the belle of the ball for a while. One day we'll find out exactly what happened there and why that didn't work out. But do you have an idea? You want to pause on that one?
I have an idea. Yeah, here's my theory on Evan Gold. I know there's a lot of people that are kind of thinking like he wanted to go and be too bold with the amount of people he wanted to ship off from Boston to this Vancouver managerial structure, and that might be true. I mean, I know he was definitely going to bring some people from Boston with him to Vancouver. You're paying two guys right now upwards of like $5 million maybe not to work, right? And you probably have an idea of how much you want to pay the guy that's going to be your new general manager. And I gotta believe that money was involved in this, man. Like if you're bringing in RJ as your internal solution after all these public flirtations with people outside the organization, be it Per Dorian, be it Evan Gold, I have to imagine there's a fiscal reason for it beyond simply just like we didn't want to give the guy too much power or something. So I truly believe, and I think
it's just dollars and cents,
might have given me a little stick tap when I put this theory out on Twitter the other day that there's a financial reason why Evan Gold's not the general manager of the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, at least that's part of the equation.
I've always maintained in situations like that, if that's going to be the determining factor for your organization, fold the tent. And this goes back to what we just said about Edmonton. Edmonton could have just said, like, look, no, he hasn't even started his no deal. We haven't even paid him new cash yet. He's our coach, period. But they recognized, okay, again, rightly or wrongly, can dispute and dispute. But they said, we don't believe this is going to be our coach. He's not the guy. We can get someone better. So we eat it. And that's the way you have to do it in sports. And that's the way you have to do it. Not just sports, but in all of business.
That's situational, though. That's situational. Like they're in a much more desperate place than Vancouver. Like they have a ticking time bomb, like you said earlier, of Connor McDavid's contract.
That's true.
So they're gonna throw money after money to try to win a cup within the next 2 years. Vancouver doesn't have nearly anything close to that pressure point.
Vancouver's trying to sell tickets. Right? And Vancouver thinks they can, you heard Rutherford at his press conference, spin this thing around in a year. Because now they fixed the culture.
Does the Canadian team need to?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Because as an American, I was also always under the
even
impression
Toronto.
that you just put things on the ice and people pay to show up.
No, not true. Not true. Look what happens in Winnipeg. Look what happens in Winnipeg.
Is if that's the smallest market in the league, though.
But the thing is, that softens all of us. Vancouver, Winnipeg once looked over the cliff and didn't like what they saw, and all of a sudden it was matching contracts for Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck.
The Canucks are going to draft somebody third overall, and they're going to put them on a poster, and then everybody will want to re-up their season tickets. Hope sells, right?
And so then Malhotra doesn't go to BU?
Come see the team that Caleb Malhotra will join eventually.
How about that situation?
Hold on. To your point, isn't making the Sedins co-presidents your functional, here's hope for all of you morons paying to see this franchise?
Toronto just did it with Matt Sundin.
Right.
Here's the elevated shine role. Listen, when you see this all the time with organizations, when you know you're going to have a bad season, what happens? All of a sudden, we're retiring jersey numbers, and we're getting the alumni out, and it's remember the good old years. When it's a good season, you don't have to do any of that. Right. Go have a look when numbers are retired, when they have these types of ceremonies. It's in bad years.
Why do you think they do salute to the troops in the third period? It's because they're trying to get people fired up at the right time with some red meat for the audience. Come on, we've talked about this. By the way, I always think about that interview we had with that one dude about how, remember on the old MvsW, we had that interview with that dude that talked about how it felt as a veteran when they did all of that
Jeff,
stuff at games.
Who served? God, what was his? And he sent me his book too. What an interesting guy. What a great dude.
He was such an interesting guy.
Jeff,
it was for those who have no idea what we're talking about. We had a guy on the old podcast that talked about what it was like being a veteran that was featured in those moments, and it was such an eye-opening conversation because it was their perspective on kind of maybe being used as a part of the game night entertainment versus something salient. It was really eye-opening, that conversation. If anyone has the MvsW archive on their device, go back and listen to that episode because it was fantastic.
I read his book because he sent us copies, and I remember reading it right away, and it was just I was just stunned, page after page. I got it here somewhere. Oh wow, I haven't thought about what a nice guy. I haven't thought about that for a while. We haven't really talked about the sort of the playoff landscape a whole lot because, outside of Minnesota and Colorado and what happened last night, and more on Edmonton coming up at the bottom of the hour here in a couple of moments. If you're listening on a podcast, there's no bottom of the hour. Dummy. Don't think like it's radio, Marek. There's no bottom of the hour. What am I going to do? Time check? It's not like you do time checks now?
It's not like you're sinking Dark Side of the Moon with the Wizard of Oz. People don't have to start the podcast at the top of the hour to understand what the hell you're talking about.
Oh, really? No. Okay. I just arrogantly assumed that everybody started at the top of the hour when we go live. We'll do the double time checks now. 1:55, 5 before the hour. Why do DJs always do double time checks? If you say 1:55, you don't have to say 5 before the hour. Thanks. That's a PSA for all of us listening to all the dumb DJs out there. Anyhow, I digress.
Can I ask a quick question before we get to the next thing?
Yeah.
Were you guys in Canada cognizant of the Ted Turner starting every show 5 minutes after the hour on TBS thing, or is that completely an American reference?
I'm sure that I came across it because when I started at when we switched from Mojo to AM 640, when I worked at Chorus, we would do the same thing to sweep the top. But you would start things at 7:05.
Was
it either 05 or 07? I can't remember what it was, but we would try to sweep the top of the hour. It was all about TSL, time spent listening. Yes, we would try to sweep. Yeah. We would sweep
Ted
the top
Turner's
all the time.
Big innovation for those that
was
don't
that
know,
his?
Was starting all of his shows. Yeah, it was starting all of his shows on TBS, Turner Broadcasting System.
You know what?
5 minutes after the hour, in order to get you watching beyond the top of the hour, so you wouldn't flip channels.
Correct.
So like the Andy
Yes.
Griffith show would start at like 6:05.
Correct.
So you'd have to tune in at 6:05 to see the Andy Griffith show.
Radio tricks. We used to do that
That's
at
good shit.
6:40 all the time. I don't know if they still do, but we used to do that at 6:40 all the time. By the way, just a quick note on Ted Turner. I read somewhere online, someone brought up a great point about the kind of billionaire that he was. And we used to have like cooler billionaires because Ted Turner became a billionaire and just spent all his money on like cool fun stuff that he liked, like baseball and wrestling and movies
Wrestling, yeah.
and like cool stuff, as opposed to stuff that's going to like sabotage the universe. Like back then, like billionaires like Ted Turner were cool. Like you really loved having billionaires like that around, unlike the class that we have now.
Well, because he was a guy that learned sailing to win the America's Cup, right?
Yeah.
And now the billionaires today would be like forcing the America's Cup to give them an America's Cup, like an honorary America's Cup, just for like being on a boat once.
Yeah. Okay, hard transition then. Montreal, Buffalo. This thing's headed 7, right? Like this isn't going to end tonight, is it?
It could. It could. I think Buffalo did a real good job. They didn't do a good job staying out of the box in Game 4, but they certainly did a better job managing their emotions.
Okay,
they got the break of all breaks on the Tage Thompson goal. They got the break of all breaks on the Tage Thompson goal, but that put some wind in their sails, and they played. I thought they played really well in Game 4.
By the way, remember that one playoff season? I think it was 2011, maybe 2012, where every game there were like 3 or 4 too many men on the ice, where everybody was just like firing it at the boards at every line change and every official bid on it, and it was like nonstop, too many men on the ice, too many men. And it was like, I think TSN ran like a counter as well, like on every single night, like how many too many men. How many high sticking infractions can one series stand?
It's incredible. The parade in the penalty box for both those teams in the last 2 games was just
high sticking, but like high sticking specifically.
I don't want to say the game was unwatchable, but it's just like at some point I was just rolling my eyes when I saw there be another power play in that game.
I know. You can't. That's why I can't call.
I wrote about
That's why I can't. I
wrote about this on.
It's too many power plays.
You can't. I wrote about this on ESPN.com today. In a bigger piece about lessons learned from the postseason so far, and I'm just really impressed with Buffalo. Like you could see the education in trying to learn how to win in the postseason and managing your emotions. All of this stuff is managing your emotions. I talked to Bill Armstrong from the Utah Mammoth about this. He one of the things that he did, and I think that Pat Verbeek did kind of the same thing with Anaheim, was you got to bring in some guys that have been there. I know we always joke about rings in the room, but this is what you need to do when you have a young, inexperienced team in the postseason. It's to let them know that the biggest difference between the regular season and the playoffs is that every loss feels like the end of the world in the playoffs. Because there's such a finite number of games in your series, and everybody's paying attention, and the media scrutiny gets longer and louder, and you're on the road. Game 3 is a good example for Buffalo. You're on the road, and now Montreal's up 3-1, and Bell Center feels like it's going to explode, and you feel like shit. You just feel terrible. You feel like the weight of the world is crushing you because you've let the lead slip away. And having some guys on a team to kind of just give you a little bit of a mental health check is really important. Utah had it. Anaheim has it. Buffalo has some guys, but not many. The Flyers had no one, basically, to do that. And so to see the maturation of teams like Philly and the Flyers, I think the Flyers and the Sabres, rather, has been really impressive to watch them learn how to manage their emotions in the playoffs without having a bunch of Jedi sages to give them that kind of advice.
Really quickly, because Tyler's standing by, you're at Bristol right now at the headquarters of ESPN. Are you going to see PK Subban today? Do you know if you're going to see PK today?
I can guarantee you I will not be seeing PK Subban.
Because I'm curious if he's been asked to carry the torch yet. And if so, is it with Madame Bellevue? Because that would tear the place apart.
I think PK is too busy getting trolled by the Buffalo Sabres social media team for not being able to pronounce the name of their goaltender. Which was a great bit, by the way. If people haven't seen it, the Sabres asked a bunch of children to say Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and goofing on PK's inability to say it, which I thought was really,
that wasn't
really clever.
just PK's. That was Moose too. But you know what? Subban had a great comment on Twitter about it too. Like he sees the joke, even though his brother platooned with him in the minors, which like Malcolm was his partner in the American Hockey League. You don't know his name. Anyhow. Yeah. Okay, let's get to more of the top story of the day. The Oilers are searching for a coach. Whoever will they ask? Well, we'll ask Tyler Yaremchuk, who he thinks they'll be asking. And my suspicion is Vegas, if they ever allow permission, because as of right now, they've been denied. Hey, Tyler, how are you?
Oh, I'm good.
I mean, denied.
Well, we can get all the synonyms for denied out. Okay, we can get
withheld.
All the synonyms for denied out there, but it's the same thing.
There's a lot of ways you can say it, Marek.
Put up the stop sign. How are you, Tyler?
I'm good. I woke up this morning at 8 a.m. as I usually do, and I had 8 text messages from producers and other people when they fired Knoblauch. We need you on this show, that show. And I sat there and I went, where have you all been for 72 hours? We declared him dead on Tuesdays, Oilers Nation every day. We've done the thing that like news stations section. Liam and I have declared Bruce Cassidy the next head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. We've declared the race over. It's conceded. It's done.
Wish?
There's so many ways I can go here, Tyler, but Marek and I were talking about this earlier. Like, do you think Knoblauch deserved to get fired despite all of the injuries and all of the mitigating factors, the exhaustion of those 2 cup runs that led to the Oilers losing in the first round?
I don't think he shoulders the majority of the blame at Edmonton, but I think he wears a good amount of it still. He got a chance to hire his own staff this year. Paul Coffey left the bench. He let Mark Stewart take on a bigger role running the blue line. He brought in Paul McFarland to run the forward group after Glenn Gulletson went and took the head job in Dallas. He got a chance to kind of put his stamp on the coaching staff, and what happened was the defense got worse. The penalty kill was absolutely terrible for pretty much the entire season. And I also think that his personality type, very calm. At times he can be kind of monotone. He doesn't really react to things. When you hear Connor McDavid at the end of the regular season say, the regular season's become monotonous to us. And I do think the Oilers sleepwalking through the regular season is a big reason why they lost in round 1 of the playoffs. They just weren't ready to dial it up and play playoff hockey. Like Kris Knoblauch's personality type, I don't think fits what this team needs going into such a make or break year. So did he deserve to get fired? I mean, in 2 of the 3 seasons he's been behind an NHL bench, he's gone to a Stanley Cup and been a combined 3 wins away from winning the whole damn thing. So I don't know if he deserved to get fired, but I also think it's a justified decision, if that makes any sense.
It seems as if, and this happens with coaches all the time, you have your ideas and you dig in your heels. And no matter what anyone tells you or what evidence there may be about the decisions you make, you wall them off. There were times this season, and I just cited one with Greg, that last game against Anaheim with 29-97 and Kapanen on the same line on the road, easy matchup for Joel Quenneville. That's a 2-foot putt. I say to myself, I'm sure that he's heard that there's probably another way to do this. Essentially, was the problem that there wasn't enough water getting from the well to the village, or was the issue that the coaches didn't care to have a drink from the water that came from the well, to draw a really strained analogy here?
I don't know. Like, I'll cut him some slack for that decision late in the Anaheim series, because we now know Connor McDavid was on one ankle. And I mean, you even look like Zach Hyman was not throwing a check for the final 2 games. Like, that's where I'll maybe lean to like what Greg asked me earlier, like how much does the injuries and all that, should it have absolved Knoblauch? And like, Connor McDavid, I don't think, could drive his own line. So I think they kind of had to make that decision. And Leon Draisaitl was taking the faceoffs a lot of the time and all of that. So I'll absolve him a little bit there. But I do go back to, along those lines, the start of training camp when, again, the Oilers had these 2 young, exciting players in Ike Howard and Matt Savoy in camp. And everyone was like, all right, if they break camp, like these are 2 young pieces who could, really mesh well with a McDavid and a Draisaitl. And they started the year Connor, Leon, and Trent Frederick as their top line. And it's like, why? You've had all summer to think about this, and you're going big guns together with Trent Frick, a noted top 6 winger. Like, that was a weird choice for me. And throughout the year, like the 29-97 nuclear option, when to put them together, that's gone. That's pre-Knoblauch. That's Woodcroft. That's Tippett. That debate's always existed here. So I don't think that how he handled that is super high on my list of reasons I was frustrated with Kris Knoblauch. But I do look back to that start of the year, and it was like, why was that happening? Why did Kris Knoblauch decide on that to start?
Well, because Connor and Leon needed a goal scorer, obviously. Now, here's the thing I'm wondering about. When Connor and Leon both talked about the team taking a step back, I think most of us were like, well, of course it did. The roster is not nearly as good as it was in the previous 2 runs. Yeah. You traded for Tristan Jarry. Like, no shit. Management made the roster worse. You have taken a step back. But do you think that they meant coaching? Like, how much are Connor and Leon a part of this decision and saying, hey, if you have the chance to bring in someone who can give us a defensive acumen like Bruce Cassidy could, you got to make this move? Do you think that they killed the coach?
So I think they were a factor. I think of the moment after they lose Game 6 to the Florida Panthers, and Connor McDavid's asked, like, why couldn't you deal with this Florida forecheck? And he said something along the lines of, we were just banging our head against the wall doing the same thing over and over again. And it was like, In the moment, it was like, yeah, he's frustrated. He just lost the Stanley Cup again. He's frustrated, whatever. And then I think about before the Olympic break when Leon Draisaitl was asked who needs to be better, and he said everyone needs to be better. And he kind of said it starts with the coaching staff. And it was like, whoa, that's an interesting phrase. And then I think about Connor McDavid after they got waxed by the Tampa Bay Lightning, was asked, why aren't the Oilers as well coached as the Tampa Bay Lightning? And he deflected and said, that's a question for Knobber. And it's like, okay. And then Leon in his exit interview says everyone took a step back, management, coaching, the players. And it was like, all right, so now there's been in the last calendar year where these 2 guys have included coaching pretty bluntly in their evaluation of the team at 4 different points. Like, I think that kind of tells you right there how they felt.
Well, listen, look, talking to Tyler is like watching the end of The Usual Suspects. Like, all the clues were there, Marek. You know, Bruce Cassidy's name was on a coffee mug. Like, we didn't even know where the breadcrumbs were. Tyler knows.
Skokie, Illinois. Oh yeah, here we go.
I mean, there were Oilers fans when the Golden Knights fired Bruce Cassidy with 7 games left in the season. There were people in my YouTube chat being like, there we go, teams can do it. Fire Knoblauch right now. Like, this wasn't, and people are making it seem like it's this mess, and the Oilers got, and I guess they did kind of get caught trying to have their cake and eat it too. Because I do think if they didn't think Bruce Cassidy was a possibility, I think there's a world where they keep Kris Knoblauch. I think there's powerful people in that organization and decision makers who wouldn't have minded having Kris Knoblauch back for another year. But I think compromise, and this is the theory from all the information I've been able to scope out, my theory is the compromise between the 2 camps. One was fire the coach. We aren't winning with this guy. The other one was give him better assistance, and look, we can go back to the Cup final just like we did when he had better assistance. I think the compromise was everyone agrees Bruce Cassidy's an upgrade. If we can get that guy, we get that guy. But let's not throw Kris Knoblauch away for no reason. If we can't get Bruce Cassidy, let's keep him.
So let's talk about that, because Stan pushed back on that today in his press conference. Like, he said they went through the process of review after the season like he said that they would, and that the conclusion they came to was to change the coach. There was a delay because he needed to do it face-to-face, and not everybody was in the same place. Mm-hmm. So I tend not to believe him, and I don't think you believe him either on that timeline. But at least their line that they're selling is that he goes no matter if Cassidy is available or not, because that's the conclusion they came to. Do you buy that, though?
No, I think he's lying to us. I just don't believe it at all. I don't. I think they sat there and wanted to get permission to talk to Bruce Cassidy and obviously didn't. And then the information got leaked out by whoever wanted it out there, whoever benefited from it being out there. It certainly wasn't the Edmonton Oilers. And they sat there and went, well, certainly can't bring back Kris now. I also think it's funny that yesterday, I saw Friedman had the report and a couple other people did too, that like Bruce Cassidy's number 1 preference is to coach the Edmonton Oilers or something along those lines. And I kind of thought, like, is that the smoke signal from the Cassidy camp telling the Oilers, like, hey, you can fire him? Like, 24 hours had gone on since the initial report. That was the Cassidy camp being like, don't worry, we'll be here for you. We are interested. You can let him go.
I can't help but I can't help but thinking through all of it too, and I keep referring it as a doomsday clock, but it is, and it feels like it. Like right now, the Oilers don't have, like, Stan Bowman doesn't have the luxury of time on anything. Something doesn't work, you kind of have to change it right away because you're attached to Connor McDavid's contract. Like, if Connor had done a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal, I don't think we're having the exact same discussion. But now it's almost as if the general manager has been backed into a corner where all of a sudden he has a finite amount of time here. It's like a Keanu Reeves movie. A finite amount of time to get this thing back on the rails. And if you have any misgivings about anything, you don't have time to say, let's see how this plays out. You just don't have that. You don't have the luxury of having time.
I was curious if one of the people who was okay with keeping Knoblauch was maybe Bowman from the perspective of like, ooh, does he want to save that bullet? Does he sit there and pick the assistants with Knoblauch and say, hey, you didn't do a good job picking them yourself, so we're doing it with you this time. And we pick the assistants, then Bowman's got a lid in the chamber for when the Oilers are inevitably 2-7-3 to start next year, and he can go like, piff. Coaching change, let's get the new coach bump and all that. But I think, again, Bruce Cassidy being on the market probably changed that equation a little bit in all of this. But you're right. Like, every decision they make right now is incredibly consequential, which is why, again, it has to be an experienced, their track record, what they're about head coach. As much as, we can talk about the Manny Malholtras and maybe some other guys around the hockey world who haven't had a crack at an NHL bench yet and be like, they'd be interesting. They might fit. I don't think if you're the Oilers, you can take a chance on anybody right now. It has to be a sure thing. So it probably has to be Cassidy. If it's not him, which again, I think it is, like a Laviolette or someone like that.
Hang on. Pause on that. I was saying to Dave last week, Dave Penyota, last Friday when he was on, or maybe it was the other day, actually. All these days all run together. I would just like to be in the room. No, it was last week. I would like to be in the room to hear, because all the names have to be out there for discussion. I would have loved to have been in the room if/when, and I would believe that the name would have come up. The name Jay Woodcroft would have come up.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Woody 2.0, baby.
So I had the take in the 2024 run when they turned it around. I said the whole time they would be doing all of this with Jay Woodcroft behind the bench. That's not like revisionist history or me looking back. I had that take every day on the show, and people were heaping praise on Knoblauch. I was like, why are we all thinking Jay Woodcroft is suddenly a bad coach? I don't think he was. I think he got fired because he couldn't get a save. And again, I think his loyalty to Dave Manson hurt him, because I don't think Dave Manson could really run a modern blue line, at least in the fashion which the Oilers needed it. They had to play up-tempo and fast, and they were a little bit too old school, off the glass and out, don't make mistakes sort of thing. Like, you can look at how Evan Bouchard kind of blossomed coming out of that move. So I think Jay Woodcroft is on it. If they would have given him fresh assistance to that season, and if he could have gotten a save, like, that was still Jack Campbell era in Edmonton. He had to go on waivers in November that year. Like, Jay Woodcroft got dealt a crappy hand at the end here. I think he's a fine coach. There's just no shot the Oilers are doing it.
I don't know.
Hang on a second.
They fixed the goaltending. Obviously, he should come back.
At this point, again, like doomsday clock here, everything has to be on the table. Everything. All of it. Don't you think? Even if it means, okay, we know it's the right thing. We might not like it, but we know it's the right thing. We go back to Jay Woodcroft. And
again, I've kind of just lived my life the last 48 hours being like, it's Bruce Cassidy. So I haven't spent.
I know. Like, listen, he is the preferred candidate. We get it. Like, that's it. But if for whatever reason Bill Foley digs in his heels, no way, no how. He's my employee.
That's what I was going to say. Like, don't we all want to see what that looks like? Don't we all want to see the Oilers having turfed their coach and the Vegas Golden Knights being like, no, he signed through next season. I don't know what to tell you. Couldn't they just make him like head scout or something? Like, couldn't they just give him some other assignment within the organization that's not head coach and just be like, I'm sorry, he's an important asset to our organization and Edmonton can't get him?
And I don't know how the languages in those contracts work, but I mean, I would just be stunned if Vegas was allowed to do that. Like, I know I asked you kind of blank earlier.
They are, right? Like, they are allowed to do that. It's just not done. Like, that's like a quick phone call. That's a quick phone call from Gary Bettman saying, like, look,
Gary will step
technically,
in.
Bill, you're right, but come on. Do you know how petty this makes our league look? Not just your team, it makes our league look petty. If you don't want him, fine. Let him go find work somewhere else. But to Greg's point, we haven't seen this.
That would be so funny. It'd be so funny.
It would be very ish for that to be the way this whole thing goes down, and they're caught. Like, again, people saying they're panicked and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, they handled it poorly, whatever. I mean, I just think they were trying to upgrade their team at any cost possible. And if that cost was potentially upsetting Kris Knoblauch's feelings, then sure. And this is probably more Oilers homer bias of me to say this next part. But, like, when the Vegas Golden Knights are cutthroat and trademark Andre Fleury after telling him he'll be a Golden Knight for life and do all that stuff, everyone's like, yeah, that's how an organization's ran. You win at all costs. Then the Oilers do it, and everyone's like, what a joke.
Well, let me. But you said something interesting though, Tyler, which is that they wanted to upgrade their team at all costs. Don't you think they do this because there's no other way to upgrade their team? Like they don't have a treasure trove of things to trade. Like if they're gonna do big moves this offseason to improve the roster, it's going to be like a money in, money out deal with like Darnell Nurse and someone else's defenseman or something like that. Like this is the only card they really have to play to improve the team in the short term before they either say goodbye to Connor or trade him.
Yeah, and I mean, that's fair. Like looking at this summer and how they could add a big piece to their top six or round out their blue line, it's not, they're going to have to get creative. I don't think it's going to be as simple as, Stan sending a text to 31 other GMs and saying, hey, Darnell Nurse for free, anybody? Like, that's just not how it's going to work. But if they want to get creative, like they do have a little bit of financial flexibility, $16.8 million in cap space. So they can go out and sign a few pieces, although the free agent market sucks. But I mean, I was talking with DJ Bean from What Chaos, and he had the idea of, what if you actually kept 50% of Darnell Nurse? Is there a GM out there? Buffalo was willing to give up a ton of stuff for Colton Parayko, and don't take this as me comparing Darnell Nurse to Colton Parayko. Yep. But if Buffalo was willing to give up a ton of stuff to get bigger, more veteran, meaner on their blue line, maybe they would look at a Darnell Nurse at 4.75 and sit there and say, yeah, we'll give you a little something for it. Like, we'll take him off your hands. Would Steve Yzerman in Detroit have interest in making his blue line older and more veteran? We know Ottawa's in the market based on numerous reports.
San Jose all day. San Jose all day. They have no one. It's Sam Dickinson, Stan the bunch. San Jose's the team I'm looking at.
Would one of these teams, if you kept $3 to $4 million, all of a sudden go, you know what? Free agent class sucks. We'll take Darnell Nurse at $6 million, and then again, can you bring back Connor Murphy with the money you save and all these other things? Like, It's just gonna have to be more creative than like the very lowbrow, like trade Morgan Riley for Darnell Nurse. Like, it's got to be different than that. I don't think you're gonna be able to do the Lucic for Neil thing.
I think Marek nailed it. 50% retained on Nurse plus a second rounder in 2028 for Celebrini. Who says no?
I was going to say Colin Graff, but you were like celebrating. Boom! Right? Holy smokes! I wonder about the McDavid of all of this, as we all do, and how much McDavid. I don't know whether he's vocal with Stan Bowman about it, but like, make no mistake about it, like he wrapped up a Christmas present here for the Edmonton Oilers, and I don't think that McDavid looks at this and says, I didn't give you $12.5 million on my next 2 years just so you would only flip out the coach here. Like, how much do we need to keep in the back of our minds here, Tal? Like, hold on a second. I went above and beyond with my contract. Now, what are you, like Sean Connery in The Untouchables, what are you prepared to do?
Yeah, and that's what scares me about Stan Bowman being the GM, because I can sit here and go through a lot of really small moves that Stan Bowman's made. I mean, like, those are great. Podkolzin, scooping up Roslovic for $1.5 million on opening night, claiming Kasperi Kapanen off waivers. Like, he's made some really good, I think dumping Cody Ceci and getting Ty Emberson in the deal was a solid move. Like, he's made a lot of really good smaller moves, but the big misses are such horrendous, fall on his face bad moves, and they've come in moments where he's tried to hit a home run, right? He tried to galaxy brain this Trent Frederick contract and be like, I might have our 3C for the next 7 years. Let's lock him up for $3.8 million. He tried to jump the gun with Jake Wallman. That isn't looking good. Obviously, the Jari trade is out there, and that was, again, a moment where he was trying to hit a Graham home run. I don't know if he's a GM who's very great at hitting home runs. I think he's a very good singles hitter, and his track record through a year and a bit here in Edmonton has kind of shown exactly that.
Hey, listen, man, that means he's Tony Gwynn, and that's great. That's
I'll
a
take
Hall of
Tony
Famer
Gwynn
right
all day.
there.
I'll take
That's
Tony
not
Gwynn.
that good of a single-sitter.
Favorite baseball player of all time, Tony Gwynn. Thank you for bringing up Tony Gwynn. My favorite.
Thank you.
Just my favorite. Anything else, Greg?
No, that's. I mean, I don't know, man. It's such a Hail Mary. It's such a we don't have really any other moves here, and we know that we have 2 years to fix this kind of situation. But again, I will be fascinated to see how much player input led to this, because no
It was
team wants to
public.
fire a coach. They
They all talked about. Connor talked about like this. Leon.
But it's one thing to criticize the coaching staff. It's another thing to say it's time for this guy to go, despite the fact that he's got an extension that hasn't even started yet. Mm-hmm. Do you think Knoblauch gets another gig, by the way, in short order, or do you think he just sits on his hands and goes on NHL Network and collects $7 million for the next three years?
Again, I like him, and from all accounts, he's a great guy. I don't know if he has the personality for TV. I don't think he's going to sit there and give you a great story,
Right, fair
great
point.
insight. Like that sounds
That's a
so
fair point.
mean to him. But like, I think he probably sits out for a year. I don't know, like if you were getting paid. I know it's the coaching carousel, and if you're out of the limelight for too long, it's back in. But like, he's got his money secured. I don't know if he's itching to like go jump on the Seattle Kraken bench as an assistant next year or anything like that. So I think we'll see him wait and try to get a head coaching job in a year or 18 months or something.
Right.
You just said that because he has echoes of Dave Hackstall. That's why you said the Seattle Kraken. Those guys are the same guy. Oh, and by the way,
I think I did.
if Connor got Knoblauch fired, does that enhance or eliminate the theory that he got him hired?
I've heard.
Made him rich.
And granted, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, he made him rich. There's a lot of stuff flying around Edmonton. I've heard Connor isn't overly vocal behind the scenes. It's more Leon and Hyman. Colby Cohen said that on our show yesterday. I heard that last night. I heard from someone who was like, "Hey, Connor's sitting here being like, I didn't hire Kris Knoblauch. I didn't know it was happening." And that was always a theory, was that the organization did it because they thought Connor would like it, not because they knew Connor would like it. Again, what do you believe? I don't know. But it is a good look that Connor's former agent is firing his former head coach.
That's how you end up with Adam Foote in Vancouver, when you think you're doing right by your star player.
Yeah.
That went well. That worked out. And then let's spend $125 million on players trying to convince him to stay after he's told you he's already going to leave. How'd that go in Vancouver? Okay, on that we'll hustle. Tyler, excellent as always. I'm sure this is like one of many hits you are doing today. So make sure you have your throat lozenges standing by. It's going to be a busy day for you, Tyler.
Yeah, I think this was show 4 of 6 or 4 of 7 for me. I've lost
Oh,
count.
there'll
So
be
either
more.
way.
There'll be more. There'll be more. You'll be good, pal.
All right.
Tyler
Thank you,
Yaremchuk from Oilers Nation every day, and of course Daily Faceoff Live. That goes noon Eastern every day alongside Carter Hutton. I have to hustle soon, so final thought on anything that we've talked about today. The floor is yours, Greg Wyshynski. Well, essentially, what is on your mind, Greg? Essentially, what is on your mind?
I'm really fascinated by Vegas right now. Like, that was a very impressive effort, minus the straw that stirs the drink, which is Mark Stone. Maybe Hurdle's heating up at the right time. You got Marner still playing really well.
Dorofeyev. No one
Dorofeyev
talks
is
about
obviously
just
like
scores
on another
goals.
level.
I just
Yeah,
wake
he's
up and I
just
score
incredible.
goals. Yeah.
I think they're if Stone's not healthy, they're going to run into the same problem that Minnesota had, which is that you need all hands on deck to try to compete with Colorado.
Yes.
But that's to say they're going to get past Anaheim, which isn't guaranteed yet. But Vegas is, again, that crafty veteran hand sometimes against the newbies. It's fun to see it. And I read about Marner tonight too. Like I found it to be very interesting. The full-throated defense of Mitch Marner by John Tortorella, not in the sense that Torts would have his guys back, but because a lot of us were kind of giggling at the notion of John Tortorella coaching Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
And to hear him be basically like Mitch's hype man, like he's like Flavor Flav to Mitch's Chuck D at this point.
I'll tell you,
it's been really fascinating to see that.
Tortorella's such an interesting guy. There was that last year in Philadelphia when the power play was completely nondescript and couldn't score. As much as people wondered, could John Tortorella ever get along with someone like Trevor Zegras, what I was told is Trevor Zegras was the exact player that John Tortorella wanted all that season. Like, we make a lot of assumptions about who Tortorella likes and who Tortorella doesn't like, and we miss more than we're right. As
For sure.
As media,
and sometimes,
we miss.
sometimes we misinterpret his tough love as being something more than that, too. The other thing I want to say is I wrote about this on ESPN today. It's the 6 lessons we've learned from the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. I wrote a big piece within that about the compressed schedule, and I don't think we've talked nearly enough about the effects the compressed schedule had on player health, but also player mental health. I had a really good conversation with a player off the record or on background about the way that if you had a bad game, the next game's the next night, and the next game after that is 2 nights. It was like a night after that. Like the strain on these guys this season because of the Olympics and you know, one example real quick. Columbus, like we talked a lot about Columbus collapsing at the end of the season and what went wrong and everything else. They played 17 games in March.
Oh yeah,
that's too much hockey. And so not only are they exhausted, they're mentally exhausted, and that could be as much a reason. Like when Bonus is throwing these guys under the bus about not caring, they're just tired. Like they played so much goddamn hockey in the last month. And so I think we didn't nearly talk enough about the compressed schedule because many of us are like, suck it up and you're stop being babies. But it really took its toll on these guys, both mentally and physically.
Did. All right, I've got to hustle. I've got an appointment coming up here, so let's let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day in Bristol.
Right.
And say hi to PK.
Thanks, everybody.
Say hi to PK for us over there. All right, you do that. And Moose and all the guys at ESPN. All right, man, I am heavy on time. I got to stop booking, like, stuff like this close to the end of the show, especially on Thursdays, because we know it just goes Broadway. This segment is a presentation of the Ninja Crispy Pro Countertop Glass Air Fryer. Great hat. Shark Ninja is elevating the air fryer experience. Your Everett one is upstairs. The Ninja Crispy Pro is a family-sized cooking system that comes with a 6-quart, 2.5-quart glassware. It's green. Storage lids, crisper plates, and a modular base for any occasion. It's really nice. I wish I would have got that one. The clean, crisp glassware is designed for non-toxic cooking and storing, fresh off the runways of Everett. Go from frozen to crispy with the thermal shock-resistant, clean, crisp glassware. The Ninja Crispy Pro is powerful. Send the kids to the neighbors. Daddy's coming home with a green hat. It's 800-watt air fryer that can cook 7.5 pounds of chicken, feeding up to 10 people. It's customizable with 6-in-1 functions: max crisp, air fry, bake, roast, recrisp, and dehydrate. Thank you, Ninja Crispy, for putting up with my stupidity. For more information on the Ninja Crispy Pro, we advise you to visit the link in our description or go to sharkninja.ca. We have a pair of games on the board this evening. Last night was a shocker of a game just to watch Minnesota just stop. We have the Habs and the Sabres at 7 o'clock Eastern. We have the Vegas Golden Knights and the Anaheim Ducks going at 9:30 Eastern. Both should be a lot of fun, and we remind you the sheet is powered by FanDuel. Play your game with FanDuel. It's the NHL season, and FanDuel is your home for all the action on the ice. From Blue Line to BetSlip, we've got you covered all season with unique promos, live offerings, and more features to let you play your game. Missed puck drop, no sweat. With a live same-game parlay, you can build your bets up until the final buzzer. Download FanDuel Sportsbook today and play your game. Please play responsibly, 18 plus, and physically located in Ontario. If you have questions or concerns about your gambling or the gambling of someone close to you, please contact Connects Ontario at 1-866-531-2600 to speak to an advisor free of charge. Zach, wealthy 'em up.
It's too bad we didn't get to hear the one yesterday. I think you would have liked it, but it's neither here nor there. You got to listen to the end of the podcast wherever you get a podcast, because I did record it and drop it in there after we went off air. But for tonight, Jeff, we know that the Habs and the Sabres experienced a significant uptick, if you will, in high-sticking infractions in the last game. And Berkey yesterday talked about how he wants to see a tablespoon of blood. And it got me thinking,
pretty funny.
You know, tonight they're going to be on the lookout for sticks up and around the shoulder area in this game, potentially. So if you take a high stick and you don't start bleeding, you might have to zucker the refs in and cutter yourself a little bit to draw some blood to get an extra 2.
Wow. What do we got? We got a Cutter Gauthier, we got a Jason Zucker, and we've got a Josh Doan. If you take a high stick and don't start bleeding, you might have to zucker the refs and cutter yourself to draw some blood. Going pro wrestling style with this one, $5 wins you $224.26. Speaking of blood, I've got to go open a vein here in 20 minutes. So we got to get hustling here. So thanks to everyone for joining us today. Thanks to our sponsors as always, FanDuel. We thank you, Ninja, and the Ninja Crispy Pro Countertop Glass Air Fryer. We thank you for putting up with the shenanigans of the day. We thank you for watching. We thank you for listening. We thank you for subscribing. We thank you for participating in the chat today. Pretty newsy day, and tomorrow will be probably just as newsy. It's only, as we record this, 2 o'clock Eastern. Plenty more silliness around the NHL to come. We're sure we'll document all of it right here tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern for the sheet. Sorry for the zippy extra, but your boy's got to go leak for a while. Arm leak. Anyway, back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern for the sheet. Talk to you then. Jeff Marek along with you. I hope you enjoyed the program today. If you did, or maybe even if you didn't, they can't all be gems, folks. Please hit the subscribe button. Also a reminder, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Johnny Lazarus, Colby Cohen, I call them the Impact Players. You might know them as a tandem that makes up the Morning Cup of Hockey. Also DFO Live at noon Eastern. This year, your host Tyler Yaremchuk alongside Carter Hutton. Full day's worth of programming right here on Daily Faceoff, your favorite YouTube hockey channel. And as a reminder as well, Zach Phillips, our producer here for the sheet, said if you subscribe, he'll buy you a puppy. It's true.